Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Recording in progress.
Mona, I'm not sure if you're able to do this, but I was trying to see if I could live on Facebook, but I don't think I can because I'm at the office still.
You know what? Let me try.
I can give you let's see. I'll try.
And Mona, Tara, I see that Rep Krishnamurthy is in the attendees list.
Okay, I'll move him in. There we go.
I see Sarah is in there as well.
Okay, I'll promote her.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you.
This is actually the congressman. This is Blake. I'm sorry. I just test out the link for him and everything. He should be on right at 5. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you
Yep.
for testing the link.
Yeah. Sorry for the pump fake, but yeah. He should be on and on schedule and everything.
Awesome.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for
Are you
the
able to
invitation.
are you able to hear me?
We are, yes.
Great, thank you. I have a lot of microphone problems. This is good.
Zoom's acting up a little bit today. I think we'll just get started in just a few moments.
Hey, Mona, are you able to see on the bottom this more thing? At the bottom of the screen, like right by the recording thing, do you see more?
I do not actually. I see pause/stop recording.
And then right next to it, you don't see something that says more?
I do not. No. Are you able to make me a host or co-host?
Yeah, let me make you a host instead of co-host. Let's try that. I made you co-host, but that didn't work. Okay. All right, check it out at the bottom now. Do you have that?
I do, yes. Okay, so live on Facebook.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that.
And then can you do me a favor and make me a co-host?
Yes. Let me do that first. All right, so I've made you a co-host. Let me see if I can do. No, it's not letting me either for some reason.
Well, it's being recorded, so that's something. We can figure out how to stream it later.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Technology. Okay, that's your friend.
Let's see.
Hey, Tejas.
Hey,
Hi, Pareen.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. All right, let's see if I can figure this out.
Sarah, I was very impressed that you you know, you called out the Duke love that I tried to send to you over email.
I was impressed you went there
Yeah,
after
well, you
this
know,
season.
it was very close to the Duke UNC game, so I figured, you know, that it was the emotions were still raw. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I don't know if you saw UNC,
I
you know,
saw.
there are all these draft decisions, but most of their starters are coming back. So
Right. And we lost our entire, essentially all our starters. So it's going to be an interesting season.
yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
It looks like the congressman was just able to hop on, so if someone could let him in and everything. And he does have a, we do have to get going here at like 5.
Understood.
Minor, but yep, he should be in here.
Thank you very much, Blake. Mona, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi,
Well,
everyone. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I think yeah, you go first.
Yeah, let me just. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 2022 SABA virtual lobby week reception. We're so excited to have you here today for our official kickoff for Lobby Week. I want to say a quick thank you to all of you, our participants for this week, and your passion for our lobby week issues. I also want to say thank you to the incredible speakers that you're going to be hearing from this evening, and to our generous sponsor. So thank you all for being here. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to SABA North America's President, Samir Mehta.
Hello, thank you very much for making time in your Monday evening and this week for Lobby Week. It is wonderful to be sitting here as SABA North America's president. For those of you who don't know, we've been doing Lobby Day and now Week for the past several years, going back to our conference in Washington, D.C. over, I'm sorry, it was 5 years ago. So this is thrilling to see this continuity through the pandemic, through many versions of our leaders. And to really in this year see SABA North America get a richer and deeper voice, covering so many important topics that affect the South Asian legal community and the South Asian community in full, both on behalf of ourselves and our role in public life in North America. Some of the topics that our wonderful advocacy committee has taken on are just different, broader, more ambitious than we've seen before. And I cannot be more proud with no claim to the work that Tejas and his wonderful team have put together. I also want to specifically thank Barnes and Thornburg for everything else, for sponsoring this event. But we don't have a lot of time here, and I want to thank our upcoming speaker, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. I will briefly say that Congressman Krishnamurthy has been one of the most stalwart advocates of SABA North America. He requires almost no introduction. I'm sure everybody here knows him, but Congressman Krishnamurthy is the representative for the Illinois' 8th Congressional District, and he's been in that role since 2017. So he is also in his 5th year. A nice bit of harmony there between him and Lobby Day. In this last year, if you've been following the news, the congressman has emerged more and more and more the last several years as an outspoken and important member of Congress, both on behalf of our community, but just on behalf of his district and as Americans as a whole, and a wide-ranging, crucial issues. I welcome you to look into his background, but I know I'm sensitive to the congressman's time. So without further ado, thank you very much for being here, Congressman.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, very good. Well, it's wonderful to be with you. And as I like to say, it's always an honor to be someplace where they can pronounce your name right. And this is a true story, and a couple of you have heard it before, but when I first ran for office in Illinois, I said, "Hi, my name is Raja Krishnamurthy." And the person looking back at me in Chicago said, "Roger Christian Murphy. Very nice to meet you." And then he said, "I didn't know the Irish made it to India." And so in any case, it's terrific to be with you. I want to say a special thank you to my good friend Tara Raghavan, who connected me to tonight's event. And of course, I know many of you from all the years that you have visited Capitol Hill in person. Of course, Samir and Tejas and Navdeep and Sarah and Mona and Michael and Pareen and Amber and all of you. It's so nice to be with you. And I hope that you will come visit me on Capitol Hill in person at your next opportunity. We finally opened Capitol Hill to the public after 2+ years. And I say to everyone, please come. It's the most beautiful and historic building in America, and we can't wait to see you in person again. Well, look, you folks are doing the Lord's work as far as I'm concerned, and you're fighting for those who can't necessarily fight for themselves. And certainly you're advocating for those who may not have a voice in Congress. And so I just want to thank you at the outset for that. There are several issues that you are lobbying on this year, and I'll just point out a few of them. According to what I've been told, you're of course fighting for immigration reform. As you know, I'm a champion on this. I think I'm a original co-sponsor of every single major piece of immigration reform in Congress, whether it's with regard to those who are undocumented and who have staked their roots here for years and years, whether it's Dreamers, whether it's H-1B visa holders, or whether it's the children of H-1B visa holders, also known as the documented Dreamers. I've been on the forefront kind of fighting for making a pathway for all these people. And in the most recent piece of legislation, also known as Competes Act in the House and known as the CHIPS Act or USICA in the Senate, I have added 2 amendments to this legislation, which actually have a fighting chance of getting through conference committee, which will help with folks who are helping with our competitiveness every day. And we can go into more detail on that at a later time, but please look out for these immigration provisions of the USICA and Competes bill, which are in conference committee right now, and which may be the only major piece of immigration legislation that passed in this Congress. I know that you're also advocating for a woman's right to choose. Thank you. I've been a champion of this particular cause for many years, and now we see how important it is to elect people who believe in this particular right, because it is it hangs in the balance. I think all of you know this, and we may be in a situation where the Supreme Court may overrule Roe v. Wade, in which case we absolutely have to pass legislation in Congress to safeguard this right. That's what we did in the House. And now we need to put pressure on the Senate and to break a filibuster there, and of course to get it to the president's desk. In the meantime, I'm going to do everything I can to shore up these rights in each of the states wherever possible. We don't want to go the road of SB 8, the infamous SB 8 in Texas. And if you want to get if you have a few minutes, you can see my cross-examination of the lead expert witness for SB 8 in Texas when she came before my committee on the Oversight Committee. And you'll see just the hypocrisy of her position on this particular issue. The third thing that I think that you are fighting for during this lobby day is, of course, access to the ballot and protecting voting rights. I think this is absolutely crucial this year more than ever. And so I am the original co-sponsor of HR 1. And this, as you know, allows for automatic voter registration, more access to mail-in balloting, and generally protecting the ballot for people who are right now under severe pressure throughout the states. In addition, I am an original co-sponsor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which would finally remedy the Supreme Court decision in Shelby versus, which struck down many provisions of the Voting Rights Act before. As we know, throughout the South and throughout a number of states, there's a history of voter discrimination. There's a history of this. And so this particular act, the John Lewis Act, will help in remedying that situation, but we need to put pressure on the Senate again to break a filibuster. As you know, we tried to move it through the Senate in January, but unfortunately it came up short. And so again, this is on the ballot, just like everything else, as we go into the fall. Finally, supporting diversity in nominations and the public sector. We need more, we need the judiciary and we need the public sector to look like America. As you know, I'm one of 4 desis in Congress. I affectionately call us the Samosa Caucus. We need more samosas. We need more pakoras. We need more idlis. We need more vades in the US Congress, but also throughout the executive branch and the public sector, and of course, in the judiciary. I'm very pleased that we've made some strides, but I hope that we can get more and more people into the pipeline and onto the federal bench. And so whatever I can do in my own way to encourage that and to help facilitate that, please let me know. And I hope they come from the ranks of your membership in NASABA throughout the country, where you have very, you have an abundance of excellent candidates, and we need to make sure that they are put forward and that in the Senate they are acted upon. So with that, maybe I'll turn it back to Samir, and I just want to say thank you for your time, thank you for your service, and thank you for your advocacy. And I look forward to seeing you in person.
Thank you so very much, Congressman. Thank you for standing up for the South Asian community and for SABA, but thank you also for standing up for the rights of everybody in the United States. We could not be more appreciative of you spending time here and for validating the choices that our advocacy committee is making and what we're pushing for this year. It's been a great agenda, and we certainly look forward to coming to meet you when we get back to in-person versions of this in the years to come. So thank you again for making time for us tonight. It means the world to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great virtual lobby day tonight. And nice to see your son too.
Party crasher. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Congressman. With moving through the agenda, again, thanks to the Congressman for making time for us tonight. I want to next turn back to Lobby Day, Lobby Week as a whole, and give great thanks and specific thanks to our advocacy committee and the team that's really put this together, led by Tejas Shah, our VP of Advocacy, and the advocacy committee, particularly Jayashree Ganapathy, Karina Mand, Aaron Baines, Annie Tayab, Akanksha Gupta, and Tejas, keep me honest, am I missing anyone? I guess technically Tara and myself. Who am I? Oh, and Rohit Kilpani. Who else am I missing?
I think you pretty much caught everybody on our advocacy committee. So thanks for doing that.
Of course. It's been amazing, as the Congressman suggested. Some of these issues, particularly going after voting rights and reproductive rights, these are not topics that we've previously advocated on. But because of the leadership of the advocacy committee, all of you, I'm sorry, and Rachna, thank you very much. It's been a better voice for the organization, for the South Asian community. And thank you to each and every one of you for the amazing amount of time and energy put into coming up with statements, thinking about policy positions, and really making this a rich event this year, again in a virtual year. And thank you to our advocacy our Lobby Week coordinator, Navdeep, for making this this whole thing a reality from a logistics perspective. And then last but not least, thank you to our wonderful sponsor in Barnes and Thornburg for making this event happen financially and through your organizational support. Having corporate sponsors is crucial for a nonprofit like us. It allows us to do this, and we've depended on sponsorship from our partners, and it means a lot that in this year, Barnes and Thornburg is standing behind us. So thank you to Barnes and Thornburg, the team, Tejas, and for Michael Battle specifically for being here with us tonight. The last thing I want to say is, again, this event is crucial to us. Thank you to all of the attendees for making time in your calendar to be here this week to talk to your members of Congress in the House and Senate, or to their staff about these important issues, and to learning about them and giving yourselves a voice. This is how we grow as an organization. Our sister bar associations have been doing this for several years. We've been doing this now for 5 years, again, since that DC in-person first lobby day. And I look forward to you bringing more members of your chapters, more members of your community to Lobby Week in the future as we go forward. This certainly will not be the last one we do. And we look forward to you engaging more deeply in advocating for all of the issues we're talking about here and more in the future. And with that, I'll turn this back over to Mona, our Executive Director, to talk a little bit more about our speakers.
Thank you, Samir, and thank you to Congressman Krishnamurthy for those inspirational comments as we go into this week. I'd now like to turn it over to our VP of Advocacy, Tejas Shah, who you heard from a little bit, who will introduce our next series of speakers.
Mona, I think you just need to start my video, and then I'm happy to jump right into it.
Yeah, I will do that 1 second.
Sorry about that, everyone. Well, thank you so much, and many thanks to Barnes and Thornburg again for sponsoring. So our next speaker, Michael Battle, is really no stranger to public service. Michael, or Mike as he prefers to be called, is a former U.S. attorney for the Western District of New York. He's also a former director of the Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys, where he oversaw all 93 U.S. attorneys. I know he's going to be speaking to us about his very personal experiences when he was the U.S. attorney for the Western District right after September 11th, and some of the interactions he had with minority communities at the time. He's also spent 6 years as a judge in New York, and so he has a very unique perspective as both a prosecutor and a judge, and of course now working in the private sector on white-collar criminal matters. We're very excited to hear from you, Mike, and both about the firm's journey in sort of promoting diversity, as well as your own experiences in a long and distinguished career. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tejas. Are you able to hear me? This is great. I apologize because I often have microphone issues. Saba, thank you so much for inviting me this evening. I'm really proud to be here. Mona, Samir, and of course, Tejas, thank you so much. It's a real honor for me to be part of this evening's events. And on behalf of Barnes and Thornburg, I join Tejas in being a proud sponsor of the work that's being done by Saba, what you represent, and the changes that you seek to make to help people in the community, as the Congressman said, who cannot often help themselves. You know, I've been at Barnes and Thornburg for 6 years, and shortly after I joined, having left the public sector after many years in 2007, Barnes and Thornburg is my third law firm. And I've been there for 6 years, and I've been very comfortable there. When I first joined, my experience coming in on issues related to diversity were not new to me. When I left the public sector in 2007, DEI was all the rage in big law. And there was a lot of talk about it, from the call to action, if some of you remember that, excuse me, and other efforts that turned out to be lots of discussion, lots of examination, some trials and tribulations, some successes, and a lot of failures. And Big Law, for a long time, had trouble getting it right. But I'm proud to say that Barnes and Thornburg, in my opinion, is getting it right because they're doing things a little bit different. And one of the things they did was they appointed a coordinator for diversity, equity, and inclusion, one of the partners in the firm who lived and understood that experience and would know it from a personal level. This is a full-time practicing partner in our firm, Don Rosemont. And the firm built a structure around Don to make this work. And they gave her a lot of leeway to make it work. And there are a lot of discussions to make it work. So what do we have now 5 years into Don being named in that position? Pardon me. We have an affinity structure, which is referred to as the Talent Resource Group. Let me explain to you what that is. It's groups of people within the firm, lawyers and others, who fall within certain affinity groups, such as Black Americans, Asian Americans, parents, LGBTQ, and so on and so forth. And these groups get together to talk about things that are important to them. But one of the most important components that I think makes part of the success of Barnes is that the affinity groups share. We meet regularly amongst ourselves, but we meet monthly together to learn what each group is doing, to borrow, learn, and most importantly, to provide support. And those conversations happen even outside of the formality of the meetings, because I'm one of the Talent Resource Group co-chairs that I share with 3 other people called BT Black. And that's been going on for some time and has shown itself in many iterations throughout the firm from its beginning. After the death of George Floyd, the effort for DEI inside Barnes and Thornburg, like it did in many parts of America, ramped up and warp speed. And we haven't stopped. And Barnes took some major steps forward because of a lot of conversations that were taking place throughout the firm about how to deal with the pain caused in the aftermath of that event that was happening not just amongst Black attorneys and others inside the firm, but amongst all attorneys. It was the first time in my life, and I'm not a young man, and I've lived in the space of racial justice by accident as a child and more deliberately as an adult, and found ways to navigate through it for my entire life. But something was different about what was going on this time. See, I had previously been involved in discussions involving racial issues in America with majority and minority participants. And they never seemed to get off the ground because it just wasn't a comfortable conversation. People became defensive. People didn't want to talk about it because they felt that blame was being made around the room. But something happened in the aftermath of what America witnessed in May of that year, and that is the conversation changed. I know it for a fact because I've lived it. And the conversations are different now. People are saying, I'm not worried about being blamed. I want to find ways to be helpful. I want to find ways to make things better. I want to be a better American. Let me tell you a story about what happened to one of my friends of mine in upstate New York, a law enforcement officer who I will not name. He was in charge of keeping peace in his community in the aftermath of that incident, which we all know went on for several days. And a story was told to me that his young high school son and he got into an argument right in the middle of those events. And he asked his son what was wrong with him. Why was he so angry? And his son said, "Dad, I can't handle what I'm seeing in the streets, what I've learned about the last several weeks." And his father said to him, father of a different vintage and a different year, said, and his father, by the way, this family was a majority family, said to him, "Why are you worried about that? That's got nothing to do with you." And the kid responded, the 18-year-old kid said, "See, Dad, that's the problem. I'm not like you. I am not going to grow up and be a man in this country knowing that some of the injustices that led to what we're seeing on the streets of our city are going on and make like it's not happening and do nothing about it because it's not in my backyard or on my front lawn." That's a change. That's a different kind of conversation that I've heard before. In the years that I was U.S. Attorney, appointed by George W. Bush in 2000, I was scheduled to meet with the Senate and be confirmed just after August of that year. And of course, we know what happened in September. And my appointment was delayed by 3 months. And I finally got before the Senate, got out of committee, and was confirmed and started my job in February of 2002. And shortly after that, Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the agency that I spend the most time with, the FBI in our district, called me up and said, "I'd like to talk to you about something. I want to make sure that you're not having any heavy travel for the next several months." But he couldn't tell me why. I said, "Hey, if you need me, you know where to find me." Several months later, he came back to me and he said, "What are you going to be doing in September of this year?" And this is after 9/11. I said, "I'll be around." I learned later on that in Buffalo, New York, there was going to be an arrest of 7 individuals, later pegged by the media as the Lackawanna Six, arrested for providing material support to a terrorist organization. And that was something that was going on, which could not be talked about between me and my law enforcement officer in advance of the Patriot Act. When the Patriot Act was passed, he could tell me more. Well, fast forward, the arrest happened just a day or two after the anniversary of 9/11 because I begged my guys not to do that arrest on 9/11 because I just didn't know how the country or the community was going to be able to handle it. And they abided with me and we were able to do it. Now, why do I tell you this story? I tell you this story for 2 reasons. Before that incident occurred, but shortly after I was named U.S. Attorney, and of course after 9/11, we all know what was going on in the community, and we know what was going on, being awakened in the minds of Americans about people who looked and were South Asian, people who looked and were Muslim, and all of the above. And as an African American man growing up in this country, I know that look, I know those thoughts, I know those sentiments. I'm familiar with them. And I remember several months after 9/11, when travel was resumed, because of my job, my appointment, I had to be in Washington quite a bit from upstate New York. And I remember one evening as air travel was starting to resume, flying back after a really, really long day in Washington, I was sitting in the airport, and across from me was a gentleman sitting in a very crowded waiting area who was South Asian, very clearly. I knew it because I have lots of friends, and have for many years. I recognize it. And there were majority people sitting all around me. And there was a majority gentleman sitting next to this gentleman. And I'll never forget this. And when Tejas and I talked earlier, he made me remember this, not because he knew about it, but because when he wanted me to talk about my experience as U.S. Attorney, he reminded me that I had a number of stories. And guys, if I tell you all the stories, we'll be here all night. But let me share this story and one other with you. The white gentleman who was sitting next to the South Asian gentleman looked at him and made eye contact with me as though to say, neither one of us get this guy. And the first thought in my mind was, really? You're gonna partner with me against him, that doesn't compute with my history. But it was very clear to me what was going on in the mind of this individual. And I could see the discomfort in the gentleman he was sitting next to. Of course, nothing happened. Everybody got on their flight. But that experience never left me. Shortly after our event took place in Buffalo and the arrest, it made national media, and it went on for about 2 years. And people in our community of Muslim background, South Asian descent, and people that looked like me, but mostly like South Asians, were nervous. And Buffalo is a mixed community, but in many ways a very segregated community. And for many people in Buffalo who are not from the South Asian community or the Muslim community, were wondering what was going on and had some of the reactions that were negative about what was going on in their community. And people were nervous. And I got together with my FBI special assistant in charge, and I said, in addition to us bringing this case to justice in a very just way, we're going to make sure that everybody in this community is protected. And more specifically, we're not going to tolerate any incidents of any level against anybody who is being targeted because of the way they look, or because of the way people in this community think that they're doing. And he was on board with that. And we convened a task force. And we didn't have any incidents the whole time I was U.S. Attorney. And I spent lots of time going into the community, going into mosques, going into places of worship, going into community centers and talking to people about the concerns they had and what they needed to do to feel safe. And I was very proud of that time. When I stepped down as U.S. Attorney several years later, they called me back. By that time, I left upstate New York and was living in D.C. And they wanted to give me an award to thank me for the work that we put in to make sure that people there were comfortable and safe. So I leave you with saying this. I liked very much hearing what the congressman said. Everything is very important. And Buffalo is, I should say, a border community. We share a border with Canada. And we had all kinds of immigration issues. And I defended people in relation to those issues when I was a federal defender in that district. So racial justice is very important to me. And I am very proud to be at a law firm that takes it very seriously. We have 3 components that walk the walk. We have a racial justice internal facing committee where we look at ourselves, try to find ways to do good, try to find ways to do better, try to find ways to be fair, try to find ways to be good citizens within our law firm. We have an external facing committee where we try to find ways to have a place and an impact, a positive impact in our communities. And we have a foundation where the firm has generously raised, now on 2 occasions, in excess of $250,000 in 2 consecutive years. And offices that demonstrate the ability to be external facing in their community are awarded $50,000, 5 offices, to find organizations that advance the cause of racial and community justice in their communities. And with great surprise, in some communities, those organizations, some of whom are not even on the map, get that kind of award. And this past year, the DC office was able to do that. And we have a wonderful collaboration with this organization going forward. I am so proud of the work that we're doing at Barnes and Thornburg. I am so impressed with the work that Saba is doing. I read your website. I know of your collaboration with Black Lives Matter. Collaboration is very, very important. Find individuals and organizations that you can work with. Count me amongst them. And I hope this will not be the last time I get invited to one of your events. Thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And Tejas, thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for those inspiring words and also for really sharing some of your insight from your experience as U.S. Attorney in the Western District of New York. And we will certainly count you amongst our friends in the future. So we're excited to next have an opportunity to hear from Sarah Shaw, who is the Director of Community Engagement for Impact. If you're not familiar with Impact, they're an organization that's doing some absolutely amazing work to promote South Asian engagement in the political process, both as at the level of voting, as well as promoting Indian American and South Asian American candidates for electoral office all over the country. Sarah herself brings an absolutely amazing bio. She served as a deputy director for OPPI issues in Georgia in 2021, particularly in that momentous period when the Georgia election really sort of impacted and rocked the landscape of national politics. She's served in various other positions with the Democratic Party and has been the Director of Community Engagement for Impact for upwards of about a year. After Sarah, we're also going to hear from a very special guest who's going to speak about her experience as a documented dreamer. And many thanks to Sarah for helping set her up as a speaker for us as well. So Sarah, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Tejas and to Saba for the invitation, and good evening to everyone on the call. It's great to share this space with so many fellow South Asians. Many of you, I hope, are spending the week advocating for fair and equitable policies that are important, not just to our communities, but as Michael reiterated, all underrepresented communities. So thank you to each of you for the time you are investing in this. Like they just said, I'm Sarah Shaw. I'm the Director of Policy and Community Engagement with Indian American Impact, which is an organization dedicated to elevating the voices and increasing the civic engagement and political power of South Asian Americans. And while against my parents' wishes, I am not a lawyer, I can say after years and years in the education, nonprofit, advocacy, campaign, and policy spaces, the work that you all are doing this week, meeting with members of Congress and their staffs to let them know what matters to our communities truly makes a difference. We've heard from the congressman the importance of some of the issues you all are touching on in particular. So I won't rehash all of them, but around the world, America is known for a simple promise that no matter who you are, where you're from, you are welcome here. And yet, as we all know, antiquated and discriminatory immigration laws prevent us from living up to that promise. We've heard about a persistent assault on reproductive rights, a woman's ability to choose, also an assault on voting rights that hinder our community's ability to engage in the political process. And both of these have repercussions for people's abilities to make decisions about their own health and their own lives. And we need to come together to protect and defend these fundamental rights. And of course, we need to continue advocating for increased representation at all levels of government and in the House, in the halls of power, which includes the judiciary bench. So many thanks to all of you for what you're doing to help with that. Like Saba, Indian American Impact, we have been advocating on these issues for a while now, and I'm so glad to see so much policy alignment between our two organizations. I think it really speaks to the consensus that exists in our communities around these issues. And I'd be remiss to end remarks without plugging our upcoming summit in Gala, which is on May 18th in Washington, D.C. We will be having panels with the nation's leading policymakers and officials from the administration talking about each of these issues that you all are advocating on. So we hope you can join us. I'll put some information in the chat. Also, if you are interested in moderating a panel or getting involved in some way, please reach out. But back to advocacy, I know when we hear about the dysfunction and gridlock in DC, it can often feel like a futile exercise, right? To meet with lawmakers, like, what is the point? Is this actually making a difference? And I am here to tell you that it does. Every conversation matters. One, because you've got some gems like Representative Raja Krishnamurthy who can champion our issues if they know what they are. And two, because even if it takes a while, you're building momentum for larger change. We'll take the issue of documented dreamers, 200,000 children, mostly of Indian origin. They are children of long-term visa holders who will age out of their dependent visa status when they turn 21. They risk facing self-deportation. Many people I've met over the past year have siblings who have self-deported. And at Impact, we've worked with many of these dreamers who, even though they shouldn't have to, have started organizations, and they spend their free time advocating for the right to stay in the only country that they've ever called home. And their work is paying off. Now more than ever, there is real bipartisan support for addressing this issue and its root causes, which is why I am honored now to introduce Pareen Matre, who is an incredible student at the University of Iowa. She's a documented dreamer, and she will share her story. And I know each of us on this call have a reason or a motivation for why we do the job we do, and why we wake up every day to execute with excellence. And after hearing from Pareen, I think you will see why she is mine. So without further ado, Pareen.
Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Pareen, and I am so honored to speak and represent Improve the Dream this evening. Like Sarah mentioned, I am a documented dreamer. I was brought to the United States on a dependent student visa when I was just 4 months old. My parents completed their education here at the University of Iowa and were later employed by the university, which was when my own status changed to an H-4 dependent visa. I was raised in Iowa City, a place that I have now lived in for almost 22 years. And I grew up on the University of Iowa campus. It's where I attend college, and I'm a fourth-year student studying biomedical engineering and minoring in business administration. I'll be graduating this December. And while the idea of graduating is exciting, I can't help but think about the stress that my family and I had to go through to get to this point. And after I graduate, what will happen to my immigration status? Documented dreamers, or children of long-term visa holders, have to consider their immigration status at every point in their lives, including where to go for college, what major to study, whether or not they can take advantage of employment opportunities, and whether or not the choices that they have made will ensure that they get chosen for the H-1B lottery. Yes, kids like me who have been residents of this country for as long as they've known will have to apply for the H-1B visa. And if chosen, they will end up in a decades-long green card backlog line, the same line that newly arrived immigrants are in. Our immigration system currently has no mechanism in place to protect children who are educated and raised here. And even for decades to remain in this country. There are roughly 250,000 documented dreamers who reside in the United States. And based on Improve the Dream survey of over 1,000 affected individuals, the average age we come here is at age 5. I know I'm not alone when I say this, but thinking about my future has always been anxiety-inducing. Right now, instead of questions like, what kind of company do I want to work at? Or where do I want to live after college? I have to consider questions like, will I even be in this country in a few years? Or will I be separated from my parents and my family and my friends? What if I don't get the visa? Do I start planning a life in the country I left when I was 4 months old? These are questions that documented dreamers think about. This experience was extremely isolating and difficult for my family and me, and it was difficult thinking about things that I could not control. Fortunately, I was grateful to have found a community within Improve the Dream. We are a youth-led organization that supports, empowers, and advocates for young immigrants who have grown up in the United States as child dependents of visa holders. The organization was founded by another documented dreamer by the name of Deep Patel. And over the past 5 years or so, our grassroots movement has made great progress. Just this past year, I was fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to testify in front of the House Judiciary Subcommittee of Immigration and Citizenship and represent Improve the Dream, as well as all documented dreamers. We have worked directly with members of Congress on congressional letters, on policy pertaining to the aging out issue, as well as working to introduce America's Children Act in both the House and the Senate this past year. America's Children Act is a vision that has been worked on over the past 5 years to permanently end aging out and also create a mechanism to ensure that all children of long-term visa holders who are raised and educated here are able to permanently stay and become Americans. And we've been able to get broad bipartisan support for this. And lastly, just this past month, another fellow documented dreamer, Athulya Rajakumar, represented Improve the Dream in a testimony to the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Citizenship. So our group has been making a lot of progress, and I hope that one day no other children of long-term visa holders have to go through the same obstacles that I had to go through. Thank you again for having me today, and I will hand it back over to Mona.
Thank you so much, Fareen, and to Sarah for your incredible comments today. They were inspirational and insightful and a wonderful way to start our lobby week. To Michael Battle and Barnes and Thornburg, thank you so much for your sponsorship, and to Michael for your incredibly insightful comments today. These are reasons why we have this week, why we have Lobby Week. So as Sarah said, this is our chance to not only have our voice heard, but to amplify our voice. So thank you to all of you for your participation this week. Have an incredible Lobby Week, and we thank you again for your participation and passion. Thank you so much. Have a good night.